Hello, everybody. It's your boy here to give his take that nobody cares about on WUA Endgame. Right. So let's get straight into the meatballs. They added the 2 new floors in the recent reset, so I can finally talk about it. Already cleared it before, may I add, I got my S1 Augusta. Now, Augusta is being heavily shielded, so that doesn't really mean anything. However, the point simply is I did not use S1 Augusta for clearing the endgame. Right. So, I kind of wanted to talk about this because obviously I've seen others talking about it. And I wanted to give my own opinion, right? Now, I would like to preface this by saying people who are coping that this isn't HP inflation, you guys are like pretty slow, right? Like, here's the thing. If HSR added 2 new floors to MOC 12, people would count it into towards the total HP inflation. That's how it works. You don't only count a specific amount of floors that fit your agenda, you count the hardest floors in the entirety of the game. So before it was 2 floors, now it's 4, meaning TOA has basically received double HP inflation, right? It's actually more, I'm pretty sure, because as far as I know, that last 2 floors are noticeably more difficult than the first 2, but you get my point, right? Both Whimpering Waste and TOA have received double HP inflation within a few patches, right? Now, is it doable, right? This is what matters to a lot of people. Is it still doable? Yes, right. Of course, it's still very, very doable, especially if you're a veteran or you're just a lucky puller or someone who has a wide variety of characters. You'll likely be safe, right? I used Augusta and my Zanny for the middle tower. I mean, one of the floors I used Cammy because there was Spectro Res enemies. And then side tower, I just once again, 1 floor Cammy, another floor Zanny. The first 3 floors I used Don Jin or like someone else, and it's easy, right? So in terms of how difficult it is to clear the first 2 floors, honestly, it feels about the same. Those last 2 floors, though, are for sure way more difficult, right? Even Augusta, who's being like insanely heavily shielded, takes a lot longer to clear those last 2 floors as compared to the first 2 floors that are in the hazard tower. So you gotta imagine that considering how hard the tower is shielding her, if you go to another DPS, it's for sure going to take noticeably longer, right? So don't think that these 2 new floors are as easy as the older ones. Yes, they give you an extra 30 seconds to clear. However, the difficulty of the floor vastly supersedes the value that an extra 30 seconds gives you, right? So it's still very doable, as I said earlier. So long as you have a wide variety of characters and teams, you will be able to clear. This is kind of where one of WUA's advantages comes in. Now, WUA is predatory in many different ways that people don't like to call out, that I've called out multiple times, right? Their signature weapon jumps have become insanely high in a very short amount of time. They've made kits very restrictive. They've gone out of their way to make supports not general because they want you to pull a specific support for every team. However, in return for these predatory practices, they do handle the power creep probably the best out of all the mainstream gachas as of current. So what this means is there isn't a crazy amount of HP inflation individually on the floors because there's no reason to really justify it when many of the top DPSs are around the same level, right? So what this means is horizontal investment in this game is very, very much a higher priority, in my opinion, instead of vertical investment if you don't already have a good amount of teams to comfortably clear the entirety of TOA. That's my full take on it. You should only really go vertical investments once you have enough teams to eat through the entirety of TOA. However, outside of that, if you're still struggling badly, I'd highly recommend going a little more into horizontal investment, picking up one or two more teams, especially newer ones that clear more comfortably, and you're good, right? My number one recommendation, as you guys may know from a previous video I made a bit ago, is Prolova. That woman is easily the best value character in the entirety of version 2. I would highly recommend picking her up on her rerun with her weapon, right? So that's that for my thoughts on TOA and the new reset. I think it's still very doable. I still think it's very easy. It's 100% a difficulty spike and an HP inflation spike. I will not deny it. However, if you've been playing this game, I'd say for half a year to a year, you should honestly be Gucci, because you're either a veteran with a wide variety of characters, or you're a new player who has a wide access to Asterite, allowing you to pull a shit ton of characters, and you should just eventually be able to clear endgame soon enough. Now, here's where I kind of want to pivot this video into a different topic, which in my opinion is actually much more worrying as compared to the TOA HP inflation, right? Now, of course, maybe this could change and TOA could go back to being, you know, much more difficult. Like maybe this is only the first iteration, so they don't want people to scream HP inflation and then they wait until a little later, because this is very common. However, I'm much more worried for Whimpering Waste, right? In Whimpering Waste, it's not really as black and white as it is when it comes to TOA, right? For those who don't know, when it comes to just doing average rotations with pretty achievable builds, Kuro kind of tries to keep this limit on the strength a character has, right? How much damage a team can deal within a single rotation. Cartethia is currently the highest for the average player in the entirety of the game, reaching near 2 million, however not hitting 2 million. And every single character has been scaled around this number as the ceiling in mind. I believe currently the second strongest team full best in slot is probably Augusta for average players, and then the third is now Prolova because of QU1 in the current beta. Of course, that's open to change. However, in Whimpering Waste, it's not this simple, right? The kind of DPS power scaling is vastly thrown off in Whimpering Waste, because what matters isn't simply damage, but consistent damage that is as spammable as possible. And so this lead that you see, you know, some other characters have over Prolova and how close they are in TOA just fucking disappears in Whimpering Waste. And with QU1, if nothing is changed, it's quite likely that Prolova will just straight up be twice as strong as every other DPS in the game in her best in slot team in Whimpering Wastes, right? Now, I don't think I really need to explain why this is as big of an issue as it is. It's because in all likelihood, Kuro will try to sell some DPS in early version 3 that competes with Prolova's value in Whimpering Waste, and this will likely lead to a massive another HP inflation spike in Whimpering Waste that, you know, for Prolova, it won't affect her too much because she's just vastly better than the rest of the cast. But everybody before Prolova, or anyone not really with that insane level at Whimpering Waste, is gonna feel it, right? They're gonna fucking feel that shit. So, of course, this could be wrong, right? This is merely speculation. I could 100% be wrong. However, it is much more worrying how much stronger Prolova is over other teams in Whimpering Waste as compared to the pretty balanced teams that we have for TOA. Because if at any moment Kuro decides to start balancing the strength of Whimpering Waste around Prolova, even version 2 units aren't safe from being completely fucked over in their Whimpering Waste what's it called, performance, right? And version 1 characters, they would just fucking be eaten alive, right? So let me know how your guys' TOA runs went. That's simply my opinion on it. It's pretty doable. It's still pretty easy. It's 100% more difficult. Won't pretend it isn't. However, you should be able to tackle it so long as you have a variety of characters, right? They don't even need to be the strongest of the strongest. Simply, if you have enough characters, you should be in the clear. Love you all. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great night. And peace out.